Chapter 11. The Trials of Stone. The air within the heart of the mountain was different from the sharp, thin atmosphere of the peaks outside. Here, in the elder chamber of the Stoneheart clan, the air was heavy with the scent of ancient dust, cold minerals, and the faint metallic tang of dormant magic. The walls were not merely stone. They were a living chronicle, etched with generations of tribal history that seemed to shift in the flickering light of the low-burning braziers. Otnam stepped into the center of the chamber, his boots echoing against the granite floor. Before him sat the council, a collection of the most weathered and wise souls the mountains had produced. At their center was Brenna Stoneheart. Her steel-gray braids were pulled back tightly, framing a face that looked as though it had been carved from the very mountain she ruled. Her eyes, calculating and cold, measured Otnam with an intensity that would have withered a lesser man. "The mountain speaks of your deeds," Brenna began, her voice a low rumble that resonated in the stone beneath Otnam's feet. "The wolf spirits have noted your passage, and the blood of bandits has watered the slopes. But a decision of this magnitude, it is not made lightly." Behind her, the other elders exchanged glances. Their hands traced ancient rune patterns on the stone table before them, runes that Otnam's eldritch sight recognized as shimmering with barely contained ancestral power. "So," Otnam said, his voice steady despite the weight of the room, "are you going to cease all trade with the blood tide or not?" A heavy silence followed the directness of his question. In the mountain culture, where words were often as layered as the strata of the earth, such bluntness was a shock. Brenna's eyes narrowed. "Bold," she finally spoke. "The blood tide's tendrils run deep. Ceasing trade is not a simple matter of choice. It is a matter of survival. We will reduce our interactions, but complete cessation would invite complications." Otnam didn't flinch. He knew that complications was a mountain euphemism for war. "Then a follow-up question," he said, leaning slightly forward. "Who rules Stoneheart? How is that power or title transferred? Is it might makes right, a line of succession, or perhaps a vote?" Brenna's lips curled into the faintest hint of a smile, a rare display of emotion that looked more like a challenge than a gesture of warmth. "Our leadership is not a simple thing," she explained, her fingers tracing an intricate pattern on the table. "We are not ruled by a single line, nor by pure might. Our leadership is a complex weave, a ritual of proving of spirit and of mountain wisdom. Every 7 winters, those who wish to lead must undergo the trials of stone. They test the physical, the strategic, and the spiritual connection to our home." Otnam's eyes of the rune keeper flared, detecting the subtle magical inscriptions around the chamber. These were symbols of challenge, of transformation. He saw the path forward clearly. "If I were to challenge each of the elders to a one-on-one competition of their choice," Otnam proposed, his voice ringing with a newfound authority, "would that count as the trial of stone? I am letting you each choose the test." The silence that followed was profound. The elders looked at one another, the weight of centuries of tradition hanging in the balance. Brenna looked at Otnam, her gaze piercing through him as if measuring the very soul inhabiting his borrowed body. "The trials are sacred," she said slowly, "but you intrigue us. Your spirit burns with an intensity that resonates with the mountain's heart. If you truly wish to challenge us, prepare yourself. The mountain does not yield its secrets easily." The path of whispers. The first elder to step forward was a man with skin like weathered granite and hands scarred by a lifetime of mountain craft. He produced a map etched onto a slab of mountain slate. To the naked eye, it looked like random scratches and stains. "The first trial," he declared, "is the path of whispers. Navigate our most treacherous mountain pass using only these ancient symbols. No modern tools, no magic, just your understanding of the mountain's language." Otnam took the slate. Immediately, his eyes of the rune keeper activated. The random etchings transformed. What others saw as a maze, Otnam saw as a story. Wind currents were etched like veins. Water sources were marked by microscopic color variations. Treacherous rock formations were suggested by the very texture of the stone. He traced the path with supernatural precision, his finger moving with a confidence that left the elder stunned. He wasn't just reading a map. He was listening to the mountain's own whispers. "The mountain speaks to you," the elder said, his skepticism turning to a grudging respect. "And you listen." The trial of echoes. Next, a woman elder stepped forward. Her arms were covered in intricate tattoos that seemed to writhe like smoke in the corner of Otnam's vision. She held a small, unremarkable gray stone. "The trial of echoes," she announced. "Speak the deepest truth of your heart. The stone will judge the authenticity of your words. Lie and it will shatter. Speak truth, and it will resonate." She placed the stone on the table between them. Otnam looked at the rock, then up at the council. He thought of the goddess who had sent him back, the love that fueled his every action, and the peace he sought to carve out of this violent world. "I would die to bring peace to this world for my goddess, Evening Glory," Otnam said. The stone didn't shatter. Instead, it began to pulse with a warm, inner light. A low, resonant hum filled the chamber, a sound so deep it was felt in the marrow of their bones. The elder's tattoos began to move in harmony with the vibration. "Peace through sacrifice," she whispered. "Not destruction, but transformation." The trial of binding. The third trial was brought forward by an elder whose hands were stained with the oils of metalwork. He presented an impossibly complex mechanism of interlocking rings and gears, etched with microscopic runes. "The trial of binding," he said. "Align these gears to reveal the hidden truth of our people. Brute force will break it. Only understanding will solve it." Otnam's eyes of the runekeeper hummed as he looked at the device. Each gear was a memory, each ring a spiritual connection. He saw fragments of migrations, ancient battles, and the slow, steady growth of the clans. He moved with a delicate touch, his fingers guided by the arcane narratives he was decoding in real time. When the final gear clicked into place, a holographic projection erupted from the artifact, bathing the room in the light of the clan's entire history. The elder's eyes widened in awe. "You see not just with eyes," he murmured, "but with understanding." The trial of spirits. A younger elder, her movements as fluid as mountain water, stepped forward for the fourth test. She carried nothing. "The trial of spirits," she declared. "Commune with the mountain's ancestral spirits. Show us how you communicate with forces beyond mortal comprehension." Otnam didn't reach for a spell. He sat on the floor, crossing his legs, and entered a state of deep meditation. He allowed the essence of evening glory, the balance of love and the eternal persistence of undeath, to flow through him. The spectral whispers that usually haunted the chamber began to coalesce. To the elder's shock, the spirits didn't just appear. They aligned themselves with Otnam, bending toward him like grass in a gentle wind. Life, death, undeath, spirits, ghosts. "They are all old friends of mine," Otnam said, his voice carrying an otherworldly resonance. He turned his attention to the spirits. "I seek to rule for a time to create a lasting peace." The spirits didn't just listen. They resonated. The chamber filled with a sense of profound, collective approval. The trial of commitment. Finally, Brenna Stoneheart herself stepped forward. She led Otnam to an ancient stone pedestal bearing a single, ornate ritual dagger. "The final trial," she said, her voice like a blade. "The trial of commitment. What drives the very core of your being. Show us what you are truly committed to, beyond power, beyond immortality." Otnam looked at the dagger, then at the elders. "Peace," he said simply. "Peace," Brenna challenged. "Achieved through what? Love? Death? Power?" Otnam reached out, but instead of taking the dagger, he placed his hand over the runes of the pedestal. "I will protect all my subjects to my last breath," he declared. "I do not seek to be an immovable object focused only on survival. I ask you, do you wish to be a hidden fortress or a beacon of hope for the world?" His words struck the room like a physical force. He used his minor illusion to allow the ancestral spirits to inhabit shimmering forms, giving them voice. They spoke of the need for allies, the danger of isolation, and the potential for the mountain to grow rather than just endure. The final vote. The chamber was silent as the spirits faded. Otnam stood tall, his presence now augmented by the magical gear he had crafted from the mountain wolf, the headband of intellect, the boots of swiftness, and his shield marked with the bloody hand and heart of evening glory. As an elder now, having completed the trial of stone, Otnam said, his voice carrying the weight of the mountain itself, I vote that Stoneheart and the Slate Mountains Confederacy join Silverstrand under one banner. How do the other elders vote? One by one the elders stood. Isolation is death, said the stone worker. I vote yes. We must adapt or fade, said the woman with eyes like flint. I vote yes. Finally, all eyes turned to Brenna. She stood motionless for a long moment, her hand tracing the hilt of her weapon. Then she looked at Otnam, not as a stranger or a petitioner, but as an equal. The mountains do not bend, she said softly. They evolve. We join Silverstrand, not as conquered but as equals. Our strength becomes their strength. The chamber erupted in a constellation of spectral light as the spirits roared their approval. The Stoneheart accord was struck. Otnam looked out at the elders, then at his own companions who waited at the door. The journey had been long, and the trials had been grueling, but the foundation of a new kingdom had been laid in the very heart of the world. The Silver Mist River has been a vein of commerce for too long for the wrong people, Otnam declared, his eyes glowing with arcane purpose. Our first act of unity will be to strangle the serpent of the blood tide before it can strike again. The mountain rumbled in agreement. The Archon had ascended another step.